Hello and welcome back to Factory Town Idle. In our last episode, we spent a little bit of time getting the two newest biomes, the desert and snow, up and running, and we have them up and running, and they're pretty close to the end already. I spend a lot of time on them, of course, but they spend a lot of time idle as well, just processing the different researches, all the different upgrades. We do have a few upgrades here that would be nice to finish up, but what I'm going to do before we do that is get these four researches, the last four, until we unlock magic, as we've experienced in the other 5 towns. This one's a little out of sync, and part of that is because metal is so tough to come by here in the snow biome. Because the forge is just horrible. And I'll show you some of the comparisons here on that, specifically iron. In this biome, 2 iron ore becomes 0.3 ingots. Whereas in, oops, I lost my my cheat sheet here. In the desert, 2 iron ore becomes 2 iron ingots. And in the rest of the biomes, we'll just go back home here for a minute, 2 iron ore becomes 1 iron ingot. And I'm not sure what the fuel efficiency thing is here. Maybe there's an upgrade that I don't have yet in those later biomes. Yeah, these are all 1.2, so they'll come down another 0.1. But that's standard once you unlock, oh, you know what that is. That was kind of a duh moment. That's this. 10% reduction in fuel demand, or in fire demand. So that's useful. So what I've done is I've gone through this whole list, and I've categorized each of these items by what they affect. So, starting out with the harvesting here, what items are most easily better? Something. How is harvesting affecting each of? How is harvesting being affected for each item in this list for all of the, and I've included the magic town here when applicable, because we're going to have it soon enough anyway. We're past halfway through level 18 on both towns. We need to get to 20. As soon as these researches finish, by the way, in both towns, my plan is to ramp up the markets. We right now are only selling 1 unit or 1 trader, and I plan on both doing this cash register thing, which boosts the sell speed for all items that are in coins, but also doing by also adding the sellers, the additional sellers, so that we can get these things up to 100 plus percent, to whatever the max bright blue is, like we've seen here. So I want to get those last 2 towns up to that point, but I also need to wait. Oh, when did that change? We could crank these up, and maybe I should have done that in all the towns. I will go through the rest of them off camera, but I guess we need to come back and check these occasionally, because things apparently do change due to probably upgrades. I don't remember, honestly, what recently I've had to upgrade here in this town, let alone any of the other towns, so it could have been that way for a little while, but it hasn't been that long since I ramped up production in those towns, so market sales in those towns. So I think we're probably okay. But anyways, back to the thought here. I went through the list of all of these things here, and I categorized them by what they affect and how, and I grouped them together by affected thing. So the first thing is, of course, wood from trees. What do we have that affects wood? Well, the plains have a bonus to natural resource regen. 25% bonus, which means that by default, the plains will produce 25% more possible wood, more trees in the forest. That's this thing here, the regen of this thing here, without having to use a forester for cultivation. And continuing on down, also affected is the forest itself, which has also the natural resource regen of 400%. The jungle has plus 100%, and the mountain has minus 50%. So, and that's actually cultivation. The jungle is also cultivation. So you can see there's a small difference too as to whether it's affecting the regen or the cultivation productivity. So I've noted that as well, although I don't really think it's going to make that big of a difference for me. I guess the biggest thing here is when you use a forester, you get twice as much out of it in the jungle, but if you're just using the natural regen for a long time, I don't know where the line will break, but for a long time, it's better to harvest trees in the forest using that natural regen, and you doing whatever you want to do with them, rather than using foresters in the jungle. But like I said, I don't know where that breakpoint is. Some theory crafting is warranted, I suppose. But also, maybe it doesn't matter so much. I mean, I guess what will be the best thing is to make as much wood as you can in the forest until you break even, without using any foresters. And I don't know if we're actually using any here or not. We actually are. Interesting. And then switch to generating all of your wood in the jungle using the productivity of the foresters. But, I mean, this 0.1 water produces 3 trees, and here in the jungle, 0.1 water produces 5 trees. So that's not 100%. Interesting. But maybe it's rounding. It might be rounding. Is there a better stat here? $174 per second, but that's for 9. And this is 368 per second for 16. So I guess 174 divided by 9 and 368 divided by 16. Yeah, I don't know. I might be missing something with some of these. I have tractors and things that are affecting it too. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into this calculator. Oh, this is 2.5. Did I say that said 3 before? I don't know. My brain must have broken. All right, so 0.1 makes 2.5, and then this one makes 3. Interesting. Oh, I have productivity here. No, I don't. Confused am I? I have natural resource regen here, but I don't have productivity on the forester here. And the forest doesn't have a loss of productivity. Oh, it's the tractors, I think. This has 10 tractors times 1.5. This has 10 tractors, so it's 1.5. But here I have 25 tractors, so it's times 2.3. I think that's the difference. I think so. Because if I did 2.5, here we go, math again, divided by 1.5 times 2.3, I get 3.8. No, that's not right either. There's multiple factors involved here that I'm not piecing together properly. Probably because that's not the way you need to do it. Probably not. Probably not. But either way, the tractors are making an effect here, and they don't. There aren't as many elsewhere. Now there could be more, and those are, by the way, in the buildings thing here. These are support pieces, and I've been adding to these partially because there are these side quests here. Where you have all of these things where it keeps telling you to build more and more and more. And I'm working on the more piece. And actually, we could do a couple mores here. I've been doing these recently. Just additional of these, and when we get to 25, we'll unlock all those quests, and they'll all double in their effectiveness. So we'll go, because this says, plus 100 capacity. So this is affecting my capacity, which will totally jack up the production for a while because of, and I'm doing something that I didn't intend to do, but because all of these get spent kind of randomly due to the automatic rebalance. So when you add to this, it could be theoretically smarter to go in and turn off all your auto rebalances. That way they don't ramp up the system, the AI or the machine intelligence doesn't ramp up something forsaking others. That could be reasonable, although it may not really matter because they'll eventually catch up because there's no additional items being used long term. It's all short term. So eventually, for example, the industrial knowledge tomes will max out again at 193k, up from 180 something, 185-ish probably must be. Eventually they'll max out at 193, and then this will ramp down, and then this one will ramp up, and it'll get up to 193, and so on and so forth. And that's for every category. Now this one got there fast. It was insane, by the way. Speaking of this, since we're on it, the library increased your storage by 8,000 per building, whereas things like the warehouse increases only by 1,600, and things like the stockpile increases by only 800. So you can see there's a radical difference, 8,000 also in the reservoir. You see there's a radical difference in how much each building makes a difference in your storage capacity. I mean, in things like for power or water, it may not be as big of a deal, but really for the library, we really need 8,000 storage per library. That's for each item, by the way. That's not total, that's for each item. So it's kind of a radical. I mean, that one feels like more like an 800, not an 8,000. But either way, it makes a big dent for a very long time in the knowledge buffers here. But that's okay, because we're just making stuff to store it now and to sell it in the markets. So anyways, back to what I wanted to do today, which is theory crafting, or discussing the theory crafting, rather. So what I went through is I went through and did all that for the harvesting. Things like grain. There's a bonus to grain production here in the plains, and there's a loss to grain production in the snow and magic biomes, and that's due to the productivity on the farms specifically, but since the cultivation productivity. But since that affects how much grain you can possibly get out of that biome, I think it matters. So I've included it in this. Whereas here in the plains, the grain bonus is actually is in the cultivation as well. So what's weird is, like, here it shows it as cultivation productivity plus 50%, but here it shows it as all of the farm. So it's specific here to grain. It doesn't affect cotton, or actually apple trees are part of trees, so it doesn't affect cotton here, it just affects grain. Whereas in the snow and the magic biomes, it affects all farm products, including, in the case of the snow, the potatoes as well. And the magic, I guess just the grain there, which is kind of an interesting thing. So the theory could be that it makes sense to grow most or all of your grain here in the plains, and then convert it, and this is where the theory crafting gets extended many times, convert it down to flour, animal feed, and fish food, because there's a many to one ratio here. So there's these are all reductive recipes. So if you're going to grow all your grain here in the plains, then it makes sense to also craft all of your flour, animal feed, and fish food here, and then use the trading system to send those three things out, because everything is reductive here. And then, of course, we are already making our sugar where refined sugar, where our sugar is being grown, because it makes more sense that way as well, because they're reductive, and we're doing that in the water, because that's where the sugar is grown. We don't get any bonuses specifically for the food mill, so there's no advantage to making this stuff anywhere else and eating it in terms of trader throughput. But back to this, we can continue down this list. Water has the best course of action in the river, which shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, and we need to really stay away from producing water in the desert. Now, I have a lot of water being produced in the desert right now, because while I am trading water out, let's go up to wherever water is here. Right here. I am trading water out of the, there's actually, maybe I'm not properly trading it out. Out of the river. Yeah, I have a bunch of water going out. Why is this 141 per second? Interesting. Oh, because I have so much, I'm actually not using as much of it in the desert as I thought I would be. And that's because of, well, partially because of this. And actually, I think I need to turn these off. Because I don't want them to produce any water here at all. Or if I do, I don't want them to produce very much. However, I have built a ton of wells, even though they have a minus 90% productivity here, just to compensate a bit in the water regen, as well as because it gives you plus 6 water per second regen. And then also the aqueduct automatically harvests. Now, this I am pretty sure counts here. the aqueduct. So I haven't. Yes, it does. So it does draw from the water that you are, the water that is naturally occurring, and so does the water pumps, as you can see. So I am supplementing a little bit with the aqueduct and the water pump, but everything else is coming via the imports, and we're actually not using very much of it, and we'll use even less once we do what the result of this theory crafting will be, which is hopefully avoiding crafting things that even use water here in the desert. So paper, that should be crafted someplace else. Scrolly. Anything from all these things from the pasture, somewhere else. Is there water anywhere in here? No. That might be it, actually, that uses water. And we can find out right here, actually. In cultivation, we should not grow anything here. Or very little here. We have to grow cacti here, because that's the only place for it. We don't need that many cactus, so that should be fine. But all these things from the pasture, the lumber mill, the medicine hut remedies use water. And then water for steam, for power. But you cannot export any of the energy items via the trader. So there is no fire, steam, or power. So you have to make those all locally wherever you are making it. So therefore, we have to use the local water or import water to generate steam, to generate electricity. And so my hope and plan is to have enough water locally and then not have to export it. But if we only make only make steam here and nothing else, that would be grand. That's what I hope anyway. So that's the idea behind this. Everything else, and then I guess a little bit for the market too, just because. But we can continue on, and we can see that there's a lot of opportunities to move that water consumption to other places and ship the items, the produced items here, rather than the water. So next we have in the harvesting category we have rock. The rock is best harvested from the mountain. It has 100% productivity toward the mine. So once you harvest enough rock in every place that you need to start prospecting, you're better off prospecting it from the mountains and then shipping it, probably, unless of course you want to not have that many traders. But trading is practically free. It just costs some yellow coins to build, so I don't see the point in not doing trading. And then especially the river and the forest, neither of those those both have negative bonuses to the quarry productivity. So you definitely do not want to bother doing any prospecting in those two, because you're gonna suffer for it because of that. So it's better off just to trade it in. And then when you're crafting and you're trading things around, instead of just shipping the stone, it's better to ship the stone brick and a refined stone brick out instead of shipping the raw stone out, except of course for what you want to sell in your markets. So we're going to do all that. Wherever we harvest the stone, we're going to make it all local, which means that in biomes like and there's no bonus, by the way, to the stonemasons in any biome. So we're just going to make the stone, harvest the stone, and make the bricks and the refined stone bricks locally until we need to prospect, and then we'll stop, and then we will import the rest that we need to sell and craft other things, whatever that ends up being. So continuing on, again, we have iron, copper, and coal, all of which are prospected using the mine that's here, and in all biomes. They exist in all biomes. These have a bonus in the mountain as well, and a river and forest have a deficit as well. It's double the deficit in those two, and it's quadruple the bonus in the mountain. So we want to try and mine as much of the iron, copper, and coal as we can out of the mountain. And then again, going back to, okay, well, what do you use as far as crafting for those things? Iron goes into both iron ingots and nails, and the copper goes into copper ingots, and the coal goes into exclusively making fire, I believe. Let's double check that. Yep, other than selling it, of course. Do we sell? No, we don't sell the iron, any of the ores directly. Okay, just the stone and the coal. So we have a focus on that. It's since we can't ship fire around, I think it makes sense to ship coal around where we need to. But again, until we need to prospect it, there's no point in not mining what we can. So what we'll end up doing, by the way, is we'll end up not using the auto rebalance, and we'll just fix these at whatever it takes until this starts lighting up as it needing prospecting, and then everything else we import in that we need in that specific town. And then the next is, of course, the silver and gold, as well as all of the unique resources, the unique ores, that is. And they are all mined in the gem mine. The gem mine has a deficit, productivity deficit in the plains, minus 50%. So, but that only needs silver and gold. So in that case, we probably want to mine the silver and gold somewhere else, anywhere else, beyond that limit, of course, and ship it in for further processing or not, or for sales. But as far as the gold and silver go, we're better off, potentially better off, smelting this where it's being mined, so that we can reduce the consumption, or reduce the travel time. Now, of course, there's a qualifier there. And I think we can move on to that qualifier, because now we can talk more about the crafting buildings. And so I'll just jump to that one real quick. The desert has a plus 100% productivity to the forge. So here, 2 iron ore become 2 iron ingots. The fire is aforementioned efficiency thing. But here in most biomes, 2 iron ore becomes 1 iron ingot. And then in the snow biome, 2 iron ore becomes a mere 0.3 iron ingots. So we definitely do not want to do any smelting in the forges in the snow biome. That's a complete waste. Even including, well, there are no other bonuses here that give us anything related to that. So we definitely don't want to do any of that here. Now, whether we want to mine these 2 ores here and then ship those out to be until we hit the productivity line, that is, the prospecting line. Do we want to ship those out, or do we want to just not bother? And we can get into that, I guess, later. As we go through the theory crafting, will it matter? Will the small amount of iron and copper ores that we can get from the snow biome really make that big of a difference, or should we just boost the mining productivity of those at the mountain, and then just use them there instead of bothering with this tiny amount? But does that mean, so here's the extended bit of this theory crafting. Does that mean that we should mine all the stuff at the mountain and ship it all to the desert for smelting, and then ship it elsewhere to be used? I kind of think so, because again, trading is basically free. I have 20 trading posts here. It will cost 6,000 to make one more. The total of the next 5 is 60,000. The total of the next 10 is 243,000. But I have 106 million in this town, which is the weakest of the towns right now. So does it really matter? I don't think so. I think, we can just make as many trading posts as we need to have as many traders as we need to push everything across that we want to push across, to take advantage of everything. And I think that's the theory that I'm trying to craft here with this, with what I've been working on coming into this episode, as well as what's in this episode, and then what will come after this episode. But we should actually start at the top of the crafting screen. And actually we can claim this, which is a skill gain speed, which is always useful to take. If you get those, take them as soon as possible, because why not? You just gain your skill points faster in all of your crafting and harvesting things. So why wouldn't you want these to come faster, in my opinion, at least. And we can also turn these 2 in while we're here, and that'll boost the processing speed of those 2 categories of items. And then I think I'm just going to crank this up to 3, even though that's going to pull down my iron ingots pretty fierce. I think I will do that. I have these on low priority, so it may not make that big of it may not have made that big of a difference, but why the heck not, right? Okay, so back to this crafting, and yeah, we're having an issue with wood stuff here now. Are we over? Yeah, we are kind of overproducing some things here. That's because of iron shortages. I guess I should add a couple more workshops. Is that another one? Although the workshops probably cost planks. They do. Could do that to get it done. And then they can make more. This is kind of the weird balance thing that I was talking about, and why I think I want to make certain things in certain biomes. Although we could use more of this, but we're having such a hard time with wood here. And that's not because of any specific thing. That's really just a cultivation issue. Or harvesting issue. It's a harvesting issue. I need more housing here. And that's probably because I'm trying to pull so much iron and so much coal that it, because to make the fuel, to get that piddly amount of iron. So what I really need to do is start importing iron here from, say, the desert, rather than trying to make it here. And I should probably jump that gun right away. Or maybe I should wait and just import all of these things from the desert instead of trying to make them here. And that includes these things too, perhaps. So back to the top. And let's go to a much better looking city. Lumber mills have a small productivity, or speed bonus rather, in the forest. Fortunately, though, most of the wood that we're going to get is also from the forest. So it kind of makes good sense to not only harvest all of your wood there that you need, or as much of your wood there as you need, at least until you have to hit the cultivation line, but then to craft it, or to convert it down locally into planks, refined planks, and even perhaps into paper, because it's kind of a 1-to-1 ratio here. But especially for the paper to be done in the in the forest, and then ship that out from there, I think makes sense. So that's probably what I'll do. I may just make the planks local, refined planks and regular planks local in each place, but maybe I'll make all the paper in the and then ship that around from the mountain, or I'll make whatever paper I need. I can make locally to use up to that line after the planks, and I'll just see kind of how it balances out. It might be different for each town. It probably will be different for each town. The food mill has no bonuses or debuffs in any town, so the idea of crafting the grain stuff where you're growing the grain seems to make the most sense to me, just like we're doing with the sugar. Workshops, same answer. However, things like planks, if we're making planks centralized, then maybe we should also make wood wheels in the same place, and then ship those wheels out, because this is a reductive recipe. And really then the same thing goes for the paper. We don't use paper for anything else. Where's paper at? Oh, it's down here. Right here. We don't use paper for anything other than books. So it makes sense then, whoever you're making the paper, just go ahead and make the books. Even though the workshop doesn't have any bonuses anywhere, it's a localization thing. And then even the cloth conveyor belts. If you're going to make wood wheels someplace, then maybe you import the cloth for them and export the cloth conveyor belts. Instead of exporting two things, you're importing one and exporting one. It's kind of the same amount of traders, but I think it makes more sense because you still, I think it makes sense to do. Plus, why the heck not, right? Centralize some things. Give some towns some specialization. But reinforced planks is kind of an interesting special case. If we're going to smelt all of our iron and nails in the desert, then it makes sense to ship a bunch of planks to the desert and then have these be made actually in the desert rather than here, or rather than in the forest. Shovels, stone, we get that little bonus in the mountains, but maybe we make these local in every town, because you can import the planks, you can import the stone if you don't make enough, and then you can just make your shovels. But here, these, I think we could do either. We could either import all the planks, say from the forest into the desert, combine them with the iron ingots and make the pickaxes and wood axes, or we could just import them directly to the towns and make these local. And I think making these local makes sense. So I think we'll probably do that. We're already making all the cloth here, even though there's a bonus to tailor. Maybe we want to change that. The snow biome has a plus 200% speed bonus for the tailor, which means that we don't get any additional product from input to output, but we do get to use fewer buildings. So what that means is we could ship 2 cotton to the snow biome. We could use 10 buildings there and then ship the cotton cloth from there everywhere else. Or we could just use 20 buildings here and convert the cotton right away and not have the doubling up of the trading. And I think in that case, in the speed case, unless there's a compelling reason not to, I think it makes sense just to keep the cotton cloth here. On the other hand, though, the snow biome has a bonus productivity for wool production. So I think we want to grow all of our wool, which is done in a pasture there, although we'll get to that in the pasture. And then we can either ship the wool or we could ship the wool cloth. And since the snow biome also has the speed bonus, I think we'll ship the wool cloth, since we can make it with fewer buildings in the snow biome. And then if we're going to do that, maybe we'll ship all of our cotton cloth to the snow biome, as well as all of our leather, and maybe even these nails, and just make all this stuff in the snow biome and give them kind of a focused task there. Because I don't think the snow biome has anything else they're really, really good at. Wool and tailor, yeah. And it's speed for the tailor, but it kind of gives them a specialization that I think is kind of also a fun thing to do. We talked about the stonemason already, and I mentioned the pasture here a little bit. The pasture has a speed bonus in the river, which means that maybe we don't really want to focus on making everything there, but maybe we want to make things there to counteract, for example, the jungle, which has a speed deficit. So maybe we make everything in the river that the river and the jungle need, and then we don't make anything in the pastures in the jungle. Maybe. I mean, I think that's a reasonable thing. The biggest concern is animal feed coming from the growing most of it here in the plains. Do we really want to ship 4 animal feed out? Although, well, we're harvesting the water locally, I guess, to get 1 leather back. Maybe not. There's no productivity there, so maybe we want to ship out instead 2 grain. Sorry, that would be 8 grain. So maybe we still want to do that. That's kind of one of those things that I'm still thinking of, still deciding on. But the wool, for sure, we don't want to grow that in the pasture, in pastures anywhere, but the snow biome, because of that productivity bonus, which is more important than the speed bonus, in my opinion. Everything else, though, we could grow. We could grow it in the rivers, the lands, but I think we'll just grow it locally and ship things like leather to. Maybe leather, we do all that in the pasture, in the river, and send it all, because I think leather's only used in the tailor, other than what's dealt with locally. Where's it at? Here it is. Yeah, it's all used in the tailor. So maybe we do all the leather pasturing in the riverlands. Ship all that leather that we're making there to the snow biome to make all the clothing we need, instead of sending it, instead of having it made locally and things like that. I mean, we can have it made locally to support the local market sales, but the bulk we can grow in the river and send to the snow biome. Bakery and gourmet kitchen, I'm going to do those kind of together because they both have bonuses in the plains here, but just speed bonuses. So I think it only makes sense to do things here where the items, or the bulk of the items, come from here. So things like the juices, apple juice, apples come from here. So I think we should should make apple juice for the entire the entire game here and ship it out. But pears, we should make the pear juice locally to where the pears are grown because of the reductive, and same thing with the berries, and even the same thing with the milk to butter. Like, I don't really think we need to take advantage of that. Bread, we should make that for everybody here, just because the flour can be grown cheaply and easily here. And then we kind of continue through. The same thing goes for these, like tomatoes, potatoes, and carrots. Those are grown in 3 different biomes. I think we'll make all the veggie stew in one place and ship it around, or ship it all back here to make it here. But that's just a speed bonus. So I think we'll just make those locally and not worry about that so much. But we could get into it like here with the cakes and things too, especially because apple jam and then flour. Maybe we make all the cakes here and ship those out. but we can decide that as we go, although 4 berries means we have to import a lot of berries here. So we'll have to see how that works out, how that plays out. Or maybe we ship... Yeah, I'll just see how it plays out. We talked a lot about the forge. I don't think we need to talk about it anymore. Machine shop has no bonuses, but since a lot of it is iron-based, basically all of it's iron-based, and especially if we make these also in the desert, maybe we do all our machine shops in the desert too. The cloth conveyor belts won't be there, given that theory. They'll probably be in the forest, but we could ship a bunch of the cloth conveyor belts to the desert to make those locally there instead of shipping out these items if we're going to make the bulk of the iron stuff in the desert. And I think that makes sense to do. I think it's fair, I should say. Jeweler gets a bonus in the jungle, so I think, and it's a speed bonus, but I think it makes sense to do a lot of it there, just because it gives the jungle a specialization, which it doesn't otherwise really have. And a little bit with the forester cultivation, but it's not a great specialization there. So I think we do it all there just to give it a specialization, just to give it a thing to do that's unique, just like we're doing with the snow biome. What's going on down here? Oh, I'm exporting these, and they're rebalancing because of the still adding those storages. The medicine hut gets a bonus in the forest. While the forest is already getting a lot of activity from wood-related stuff, I think it still makes sense to do this stuff in the forest because of the herbs being local. The fish isn't local, but the herbs are local, and there's a lot of herbs being used in these recipes, especially if you consider these all in chains. And the cloth will be imported, the fish will be imported, we can use the local water. The sugar will be imported, but it's not very much. And I think it just makes sense to do this in the forest because of the quantity of herbs that's used in things like the ointment and the remedy and the poultice. The study, the lab, and everything else down here do not have any bonuses or any penalties in any biomes. So I think for those items, they should be made locally, especially making the right amount of general knowledge tomes for the industrial knowledge tomes. And I think there's also magic knowledge tomes coming. We'll have to play that a little bit better, but at least there are in the regular Factory Town game. But I think, we'll import the books, as we talked about, probably from the forest to wherever we need them, every town we need them in, and then make the books locally in each town. Now, we could say that maybe we make all of these books in the desert, and even then these as well. And if we're going to do that, maybe we make these in the desert too. Maybe we should do that. Make all these books in the desert, import books, make all the general knowledge tomes and all these books in the desert, since almost all of these items are being made there. I hadn't given that thought until just this exact moment, but it kind of makes some sense, and especially because the books are a 1 to 2. So you need 2 of the previous ones. So to make one Industrial Knowledge Tome 3, you need 1 of these, 4 of these, 2 of these, and then 4 of these, and 4 of these. So maybe we do that. Maybe we make all these in the desert, which would be kind of like a fun thing also for the desert, to get the desert another specialization besides the smelting. So you could let it make the books too. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that. The plains don't really have a specialization so much then, I guess, other than the grain stuff. The river is going to be supporting a few things, like supporting the jungle for the pasture, but it's not really specializing so much other than, again, the unique resources, but you have that anyway. Although I did think about, well, maybe we should just make things like the cooked fish locally in the in that biome, but then it's still a 1-to-1. So do you just ship all the fish around and just cook those locally? Do you ship them all to the plains to take advantage of the bakery bonus, the speed bonus? I don't think so there. I think we just do the fish locally, cook the fish locally in the destinations. But if you have thoughts, by all means. It's ended up being shipping the same amount of stuff, whether you ship fish and cook fish out of the river, or you ship all the fish out, because it's a 1-to-1. So it's kind of just a thing. If you ship it all here, and then you ship the cooked fish from here, then it's actually a little bit more heavy labor on your trading, but maybe that's what we want to accomplish. So I think that accomplishes everything we wanted that I wanted to talk about today with theory crafting. If you have input, thoughts, suggestions, anything like that, by all means, let me know in the comments or come to my Discord and chat with me about it there. But otherwise, we're going to leave it here and come back in the next episode where we'll definitely have the research done in those other 2 towns. We'll be selling all the things at the markets in all the towns, making sure they're all maxed out, of course. And then I think we'll be getting close, if not ready, to unlock the magic biome, and we'll take a look at how that is going to work. So thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now.